Welcome back to my series for love featuring marriage and divorce. If you've been watching the show and this is your first time seeing one of my videos, this is the place to be. We're having a whole lot of fun talking about these episodes every week. Hope you stick around, and if you haven't been watching the show, feel free to go get caught up and come join in this discussion. With that being said, let's dive right into episode 7. Okay, so for this episode, while some other stuff happened with the other characters, this episode is focused mainly on Siyun and her family. So before we get to that, because there's a whole lot to get to, let's briefly go over all the other stuff first so we can just get that out of the way. So early on, we get some signs that we're definitely going to be focusing on Siyun and her family. We see that Hyung-ji finds out about her father's mistress, sees them at the grocery store parking lot, doesn't get a good look at the woman herself, but sees that she's there. She confronts her father, and now she knows about the mistress. And it's only Yoo-ram who doesn't know, but of course he finds out later in the episode as well. Okay, so then we get Ji-ah and the grandma. They're having a great time. They're bonding. They go to Hanguk World, which I guess is Korea World, if I'm translating that right. A Korean theme park. It was great to see them bonding. And we get some more scenes with Dong-mi and Yoo-shin, and he's just laying on these uncomfortable compliments, and it's just, it's so hard to watch. And both Yoo-shin and Dong-mi and Grandma and Ji-ah go to Hanguk World. The grandma sees Yoo-shin taking a selfie with Dong-mi, and even she can tell it's like weird and something is going on. Also, all four of these guys feel the need to go dress up, and that's super cute for Ji-ah and the grandma. And I wouldn't even be normally against it for an older couple. Like, so what? They can go have fun and dress up too. But just because of the dynamic between them, it's really weird. And also Yoo-shin, my guy, that outfit, that ain't it. Okay, then we got Hye-ryung getting a moment alone with Mr. So in the elevator. She asks him if he has pets, following up on her dream fantasy thing about him giving her a dog. He says he doesn't have pets because he'd feel bad about leaving them home all day. I'm thinking, is this some kind of metaphor for how he feels about women or marriage or relationships? I don't know. Then Hye-ryung coughs up blood and it's real bad. They have to call 911. She gets rushed to a hospital. And of course, Mr. So is calm and collected and handles it great. What a guy. So when Sahyun finds out about Hye-ryung going to the hospital and coughing up blood, he does seem genuinely concerned, which I guess was good to see. He rushes right off to the hospital and wants to be there for her. Unfortunately, she doesn't really want him there because she kind of just rejects him being there, moves her hand away from his, doesn't really want to talk to him. Okay, then we get another very brief scene with the three other women, and it turns out they want to go to the amusement park too. And you know what? Big whoop. I'm just caring less and less about these three. I will say that I do have a theory about them and why they're in the show, which I'm not actually going to tell you guys until my episode 8 part of this video, because I just want to make sure that something doesn't happen and then I look completely stupid. Okay, one other quick thing about Dong-mi and Yoo-shin. All these compliments he's giving her and the way he talks to her, it seems really based in his childhood and a kind of regression. He's always bringing up what she did when he was young. When I was young, you did this. When I was young, you did that. And the very act of going to this amusement park when you're a full-grown man and dressing up like a complete idiot is also pretty indicative of that. And again, I just can't ignore the fact that in these last couple episodes, it's seeming less and less like she's really into him and more like he's the one that's more into her. Now we're just gonna have to see where that goes, but at this point, I don't really want to see where it goes because it's so uncomfortable and weird. After their day at the amusement park, Yoo-shin runs into the grandma, and he's not really hiding at all the fact that he was out with Dong-mi. He doesn't really seem to care. She seems like she's seeing him in a whole new light now and doesn't really want much to do with him, which good for her. And when Pyoung finds out about it, I love her reaction. She just says, "That's kind of weird though. That's pretty weird." Okay, also we find out Hye-ryung has an ulcer. It was stress related. And you just love to see Sahyun feeling shitty about it because god damn it, man, it's time you start showing some regret and remorse. All right, now that we've gotten all that stuff out of the way, let's get to the main topic. So Hyung-ji tells Yoo-ram about their dad cheating, and they have this really great talk between the two of them about how they feel and what they can or can't do regarding how they feel about their dad and if they want to continue living with him or if they can forgive him. Hyung-ji also has a conversation with Siyun, and that's another great heart-to-heart talk. A lot of heart-to-hearts here. And especially in this one, when it's daughter and mother, I was so glad to see somebody finally telling Siyun what I'm sure everybody watching this show wants to tell her, which is, this isn't your fault. Stop defending him. You have every right to be angry. And I still feel really bad for Siyun, especially in this episode as well. But at least at this point in the episode when she's talking with Hyung-ji, she still tries to brush this off as, oh, well, life has twists and turns. Really? Your husband cheating and betraying you and your kids? Oh, but life just has twists and turns. No, you don't have to accept it like that. This is something wrong that he did. Don't try to justify what he's doing. And of course, we see later on in the episode, she kind of gives him what's coming to him a little bit more and finally starts saying some shit to him, calling him out. And I think Hyung-ji and her reaction and what she says really influences Siyun and allows her to come out of that state of mind where she feels like she can't blame him at all, or tries to blame herself. Okay, the next big family meeting. The kids want to hear out their father, and they give him a fair chance. And you know what? Time and time again, and even within this episode, no matter how much he's messed up, if the show's writers gave him something good to say that made me empathize with him, then I would be there to listen to it. I would be open to it. But no, he's on some bullshit again. I love how in this scene, again, Hyung-ji is there to just check him every time. Even the words he uses, she's calling him out. No, it's not about you being inadequate. This is about you having an affair. And it's just great to see somebody finally calling him out on his bullshit and all the stuff he says, like, oh, well, I'm so inadequate. I couldn't. It's like, no, dude, you cheated. Own it. And it's pretty clear that Hyung-ji is the MVP of this episode by far. And this scene just goes on, and Hyung-ji just keeps just laying into him, verbally just thrashing him. And there's that really heartbreaking moment when Yoo-ram asks his dad straight up, is this random woman more important than all of us? And Hye-ryung is just like, well, yeah, pretty much. Oh man, poor Yoo-ram. I feel so bad for the kid. And then Siyun finally just leaves because she can't take it anymore, but Hyung-ji isn't done. Oh no, my girl's not done. She just keeps going on, and it goes on so long that Siyun, after leaving, just comes back and sits down again. And I'm just so glad to see Hye-ryung getting this thrashing, because I've been so annoyed with this tactic he's been using of just saying, you're right, I am terrible, I have no excuse. That's all this guy was saying for like the majority of this discussion. It seems like those phrases are taking responsibility and having accountability, but he's really not. There's no meaning behind it. There's no feeling of being genuine. I don't feel like he's being genuine at all. It just seems like he's saying it because he wants to get this over with. And sure, he seems stressed or upset in the moment, but it feels more like that's because he's just not liking being scolded and painted as a bad guy. And every time we just see Yoo-ram in the scene, it's heartbreaking. He's so sad, and it's awful. And poor Siyun. I mean, I know I was a little harsh on her before, but God, even when he's leaving, she's still packing his bag for him as if to represent their entire marriage, which is that she just does everything for him. And then I thought it was over. I thought the conversation was done. Hye-ryung looked terrible. He looks bad enough, but no, he wasn't done. After the kids leave, Hye-ryung starts crying and whining about how, oh, everyone's treating me like the bad guy, but why don't you try to see it from my point of view? I only made one mistake. Apart from that, I've been great, and this mistake, it wasn't on purpose. Oh my God. Okay. So many things wrong with that. First of all, this wasn't an involuntary thing that happened. Cheating and leaving your family was your decision. That was something you decided to do that you could have avoided. Maybe falling in love with somebody was involuntary, I'll give you that. And I can understand that falling out of love, falling in love can sometimes seem like it's out of your control. That's fine. If that's what you choose and that's what your heart tells you, fine. But you don't get to complain about it when other people are really upset and affected by the decision that you make. You need to live with the consequences of following your heart. And I'm just thinking, watching this, like, I thought this show was going to be about making it hard for the audience to paint a good guy and a bad guy easily. I thought there was going to be a lot more dimension and nuance to the husbands and their sides of the story, and we may still be getting that. In fact, maybe we're leading up to half of the show being from the wives' perspective and half of it being from the husbands. That could be a thing. But as for now, I am severely disappointed because in that first scene of the first episode, there was such an emphasis on look at this little microcosm of this random woman and this other woman, and then hearing those two sides of a story, and then that foreshadowing what's to come. And it just doesn't seem like that's the case, because in this situation, what he's saying is complete bullshit. It doesn't make me empathize with him at all. He was able to say so much incredibly stupid shit in a very short amount of time. All men are the same. Everybody does this. Nobody is able to love one person for their whole lives. It's just impossible. Please, everybody out there who is watching this that is of the female gender, we do not claim him. He does not speak for all men. The rationalization that I'm not God. He literally says, I'm not God. I'm not Jesus Christ. I'm not Buddha. I literally took the laptop off of my lap and got up and was just like, I'm done. You don't have to be Buddha, God, Jesus Christ to not cheat on your wife. And it's now official after this. The punk bitch award that I gave to Sahyun in my previous video, the title is now given to Hye-ryung. He stole it away and he did it all in one episode. And then, if it wasn't bad enough, he then goes and drinks a bunch of alcohol because, of course, he's a coward and he couldn't get up the courage to say any of this shit beforehand. And he calls another family meeting and, oh God, he's not done. He's not done. He's going back for more. And this is where he drops that Buddha line. And he drops this gem talking about Siyun. If we had dated other people before we got married, this wouldn't have happened. Oh, okay. That's the only reason this happened. It wasn't anything to do with you. Again, no accountability. And he's just digging himself a deeper and deeper hole. And then he starts crying and sitting in the corner. And bro, no one cares. No one cares. No one cares about your sad anime backstory. And this is where he drops the Jesus Christ one, I think. And I feel that even though this was a huge mess, this all needed to happen. It needed to come out in the open. Everybody needed to have their say, and now they need to move forward. He needs to move out, they need to get a divorce, and the kids need to start getting used to the idea that their dad isn't who they thought he was and start moving forward without him, because that's better than them all living a lie. All right, that was a lot, but that's it for episode 7. Okay, so a lot of stuff happened in this episode, but we start back off with a little more of Hye-ryung and Siyun and their family. He gives a little bit more of a speech, says a little bit more. The thing is, some of what he's saying in this part is I can agree with. You know, men feel pressure to take all of these things on their shoulders and aren't allowed to express their feelings. That was all fine. I was with him. And then he says, oh, I was tempted so many times and I endured everything thrown at me. I never gave in to temptation. And then I only did it just once. Again, it's like you don't get points for not cheating. That's the standard. That's the minimum. That's what's expected. It's not something you get credit for. But you know what? That was episode 7. All right, this isn't your episode, dude. This is episode 8, so let's move on. All right, so then we get Pyoung and her mom talking. Her mom tells her about Dongmi and Yoo-shin and just saying that she felt it was weird and looked wrong. And she says, I felt an odd vibe. Yeah, everybody watching the show felt an odd vibe in the first episode. Now it's more of a odd, creepy, unsettling, weird, disturbing, gross vibe. And Pyoung is listening to this, but she still has a bunch of rationalizations for her husband. She says, oh, you know, he's just looking after her. It's nothing weird like that. And she seems to just brush it off. But in the next scene, it looks like it's kind of hitting her a bit. Kind of sinking in. She checks his phone and then sees the pictures they took together, Yoo-shin and Dongmi, that is. And it is looking pretty weird. They're looking a little bit too close. All right, so then we're checking in with Sahyun's dad, who's... Oh, God damn it. This whole thing where he's obsessed with Dongmi and waiting for her to respond, it's pretty funny. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be funny, but it is pretty comedic. Him and also his wife and their bickering. It's kind of sad too, but I guess, is it supposed to be funny? I'm not sure, but really the Dongmi in the moon thing, really? Okay, so now in the hospital, Sahyun's telling Hye-ryung, look, I'm gonna end things with my mistress. Apparently the mistress wasn't begging for marriage after all. And Hye-ryung, I don't know, she doesn't seem to be jumping for joy when she hears this. She's still pretty cold with Sahyun. Looks like that's far from being resolved, but at least he's seeming to change his mind about the whole situation. And then, thank God, we get some more Mr. So action. I'm pretty much loving every scene he's in at this point, and this one also didn't disappoint. Pyoung invites him to go see Hye-ryung in the hospital, and he's just like, nah, I'm good, bro. She tries to convince him, and he's like, no, I'm all set. Another classic Mr. So scene. Then we're back to the comedic duo, everyone's favorite bickering older couple, Sahyun's parents. So they find out Hye-ryung has been put in the hospital, but instead of going there, they pick up Sahyun and then lock him in the car, and his dad demands he take them to see his mistress. And I was so hyped when I heard this. I'm thinking, yes, finally, someone is forcing this to happen. It's been 8 episodes, literally halfway through the show, and we have not seen these mistresses, or if we have seen them, it hasn't been confirmed who they are. And I'm thinking, let's go, I am ready, let's do this. But no. Doesn't happen. Sahyun talks them out of it, and god damn it, when are we ever going to find out? Am I right, guys? So the parents check in with Hye-ryung. They give her a bag. She looks at it later and finds it's also got a check in it for 100,000 won. That's nice, I guess. Pyoung visits her, tells her about Siyun. Hye-ryung says men can't be trusted. Pyoung says, well, it depends on the man. Thank you for that, Pyoung, but I hope you don't get too discouraged from that in the coming episodes. She does drop a gem saying marriage isn't the final stop of a relationship. Very true. Then we go back to Siyun, and it's really good to see her and the kids ready to move on. They're all banding together and having a positive attitude. And I just find it so funny, this like constant recurring positive way at looking at infidelity, which is that, oh, well, at least he didn't die in a car accident. This is said to Hye-ryung in an earlier episode about Sahyun, and just what is up with that comparison being used all the time? I think it's especially weird because it's exactly what happened to Pyoung's dad, so I don't know if that was on purpose, like a kind of joke from the show, but overall, good vibes, positive thinking. Siyun gives the kids a pep talk, shares her philosophy on life, asks them to be forgiving and not hold resentment, and yeah, good to see. All right, then we get more Dong-mi and Yoo-shin. Yay. Pyoung walks in on them right when Yoo-shin is feeding Dong-mi with his hands. Nice. She also overhears Dong-mi saying that she basically wanted to raise Yoo-shin herself, and that's why she married his dad. This scene was super awkward, and later on when they're all talking and enjoying the gimbap, Dong-mi is like, oh, there's some secrets you can't even share with your daughter-in-law, and okay. Then we've got some more Ji-ah and Grandma wholesomeness. I love to see it. We didn't get that much of it in this episode. The grandma is remembering when Ji-ah sang a lullaby to her, which is really cute, but then it seems like she's got some pain in her stomach. We don't get to see what happens, but I really hope that she's not gonna die. I guess it's inevitable because she has the terminal disease, but yeah, it's just really sad. All right, back to Pyoung. She's letting Yoo-shin know what's up, tells him there's a suitcase. Why don't you go move in with Dong-mi since all you do is go there anyways? And it's just classic passive aggressive. It's great. I love it. Pyoung is just giving him the business, and he's getting the hint. And then Pyoung just goes off, tells him, who the fuck feeds their mom gimbap with their hands? Why don't you go live with her and you guys can just live together and comfort each other? I'm just like, yes, let's go, finally. So her whole kind of threat, or it's not really a threat, her move is to tell him to go move in with Dong-mi, and he's obviously supposed to say no to that, but he takes her up on it, I think, and says he wants to do it for a month. I think this is sort of a risky move by Pyoung because, yeah, that might not turn out well. Then we're back to these guys again. I did like how the dad says, oh, this is the life of all married men in Korea, and the mom says, well, what about the wives? And I just thought that was pretty emblematic of the entire show and the themes it's covering. Okay, so back to Pyoung and Yoo-shin. He tells her about his dark past, and it turns out I was right with my guess that the mom, his original mom, was not very good to him, neglected him, and it turns out she favored his older brother a lot more and I guess broke his heart many times, didn't have affection for him. So again, this does shed more light on why he might be so attached to Dong-mi, who really gave him what he didn't get with his mom, his actual mom. And this whole explanation that he gives Pyoung, while it still doesn't really justify or explain why he's so weird with Dong-mi and doing the kind of romantic stuff with her, it does explain a bit why he's so attached to her, and I can actually empathize a little bit with him. Like, I get what he's saying, the explanation makes sense in a way, but again, yeah, it still doesn't explain the pool scenes, the bathtub, the feeding with his hands. Yeah, it's still pretty weird, and Pyoung isn't buying it either. She's like, okay, you can be grateful, I get that, it makes sense with your past, but this is still getting weird, and there's no other way to see it. You're being weird. It's weird. And so it looks like they've resolved things for now. They seem to be on better terms. But I do like Pyoung's condition, this chess move she makes where she's like, all right, well then why don't you set Dong-mi up with somebody if that's okay with you? And he's like, oh no, sure, yeah, I'll do that. Okay, then we get Hye-ryung thinking about Mr. So, wondering if he's interested in her. And I'm thinking, no, don't do this. Don't fall for it. The guy's a rebel. He's a maverick. He's a lone wolf. You'll only get your heart broken. He's too much for any woman. So then Hye-ryung goes to the radio station, goes back for work, does her bit, and then afterwards Pyoung invites Mr. So for tea, but now Hye-ryung wants to be included, so Pyoung's like, all right, we'll all go to the hospital later. And Mr. So, being the savage that he is, just asks, do we have to? And I love this guy. I really do. It's just classic Mr. So. Textbook Mr. So. And no matter how standoffish he is, they just always seem to want more. Dude's a chick magnet. He's a Chad, an alpha. He's a lone wolf. Okay, all right, I'll stop. Pyoung then sits down with him to ask him about setting up Dong-mi with somebody, and he's like, yeah, that's great, but only if she's cool with it. And it's pretty subtle, but I think we get a hint about Mr. So's backstory. From what he says and how Pyoung reacts, it seems like there is a possibility that he himself is a widower, and maybe that's why he's so standoffish, because he's still not able to move on, or maybe he's just not engaging in any kind of flirtation with any woman out of respect for his deceased wife. I don't know, but it's a possibility based on the way this scene unfolded. I still do like the theory that he's gay a lot better, don't get me wrong, but hopefully we'll find out more soon. And we're just getting scene after scene with Mr. So. So everyone thinks he's not gonna show up at the hospital, but then of course he does at the last minute and brings flowers and a cake, and he just enters like such a badass. And Hye-ryung is just fucking beaming. She is so happy. But then as soon as he gets there, he's trying to leave instantly. He's like, all right, take that. There you go. And take care then. Woo! He really hit them with the take care. And at this point, Mr. So is giving Yoo-ram a run for his money for my favorite character. This guy, he's just too savage. Okay, and now we get to the last part, the juiciest part, which is that we find out Yoo-shin is going to Jeju Island. And earlier in the episode, we know that the other three women, which I am just going to start calling Migawan, combining all of their names. I'm just going to say it from now on because it's easier. We know that Migawan is going to Jeju Island as well. Then it turns out they're all on the same flight, and we see them actually together. Well, not together, but the three women together, Migawan and Yoo-shin, are all in the same room in the same space, and they pass by each other at the terminal, and then he walks right past them on the plane when they're sitting down. And this is the biggest potential crossover we have seen since maybe Hye-ryung saw all of them at the coffee shop, but she wouldn't know who they are. And this is the first time we get a crossover where it's possible we get a confirmation of who a mistress is and who goes with who, and if for sure he knows one of them and is with one of them, is he going to say hi? But no, the episode is over, god damn it. And we don't get to find out, but it looks like we will in the next episode. So this cliffhanger definitely puts my theory for Migawan in jeopardy, but I am still gonna go ahead and tell you guys what my theory is, even if I might get proved completely wrong in the next episode. Here is my theory about Migawan, the other three women. Hear me out. Okay, so in one of the earlier episodes, the first time the three other women meet up, They sit down at a coffee shop similar to the three wives and how they sit and meet up. And they even sit in the same formation, as I said in one of my comments in response to one of you guys. I thought, okay, this is a really cool visual way to show that these three women are the mirror to these three wives. And I thought that that meant that they're the mirror in terms of they're the three mistresses that are seeing the three wives' husbands. But over the course of the show so far, it doesn't seem like we're finding any real connection with them to any of the husbands, just little clues that could be something, but also might not be. But then I thought about all the scenes we see of Migawan, all three of the women, and what they're doing, and how those scenes contrast what's going on with the three wives and their lives and their dramas and their marriages. And I started to think, you know what? Maybe these three women aren't necessarily the mistresses tied up in these three wives' lives and their dramas. Maybe they're supposed to be a mirror in the sense that they represent three women who are not tied down by the concept of marriage. These are three women who they keep saying in a lot of the scenes they have together that they're single, they're freelancers, and this gives them so much freedom. Now, I know that there's some scenes with these three women where they seem to be distressed or not having a great time or dealing with something, but for the most part, we're seeing them do these things that are very freeing. They're going to the library, they're modeling, pursuing their dreams and interests, they're free to do whatever they want, they are not tied down by men. And in this scene where Siyun and Pyoung visit Hye-ryung in the hospital, they talk about how it's actually been a little bit liberating for Siyun not having her husband there since he's moved out, and she says men require so much work or something of that effect. And I think this might be what the show is showing us with these three other women. Here are three women who are not married and they're living their best lives, and they are all friends. And again, think of Jeju Island. In my review for Something in the Rain, I came up with the idea that maybe Jeju Island represents this kind of freedom from society and the expectations of marriage and relationships. And this could be a similar kind of symbolism applied to these three other women. They're all going to this very free place. Maybe none of these husbands and their mistresses have anything to do with these three women. Maybe they're only there to show a contrast to the concept of marriage and how it can tie you down and give you all of this stress, and how a life of being single could be pretty good. Again, I could be wrong, but it's something that I came up with and I wanted to share with you guys. So what do you think about my theory? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it for this week. I'll see you next week and have a great day.